The End of Politics and the Birth of iDemocracy is definitely not a book for political wonks. It's not a book for Westminster insiders. It's deliberately designed for everyone, for anyone who's ever asked themselves, why are we so badly governed? Why is it that politicians seem to be so terrible? Why is it that whoever we vote for, we always seem to end up with the same old mess? This is a book that tries to explain very simply why we're in this mess and what we can do about it and what's going to have to change. The reason why we need so much government, and the reason why people in the West have always argued that we need to have lots of government, is because of this idea that somehow ordinary folk don't know what good looks like. I think the internet's going to change that. The internet changes that in some fundamental ways. It means that instead of some people knowing what good looks like and other people not, it basically means that everyone can get a sense of how to make the right choices for them and their family. And so in a way we can do collectivism, and I'm a great collectivist. We can do collectivism, but without the state. Traditionally in politics there's been this argument between big government collectivists on the one hand and individualists, libertarians on the other. I think the internet actually transforms that, because it means that you can be a collectivist but without big government. And this is going to change not just politics, it's going to change the whole political economy in the West for the better. The way I put it is this: we've got a sort of cranky, outdated 19th century system of democracy trying to hold to account a 21st century size government, and it just doesn't work. I mean, look at the House of Commons. We've got 650 something MPs in there, and yet we've got several times more quangos than there are members of Parliament. In other words, there are all these government agencies out there making decisions that affect our lives. In fact, there are so many of these government agencies that they've run out of letters of the alphabet to name them all. There's the CSA and the ASA and the FSA, and there are thousands of these government agencies. And the old mechanism whereby we elected someone every 4 or 5 years to sit in the House of Commons and hold government to account, it just doesn't work anymore. These agencies have become a law unto themselves. They can raise money, spend money, and in effect make law without reference to anyone we elect. And that's basically why I think our democracy, as it stands, doesn't work. But don't despair. The internet is going to change this, because the internet is going to ensure that instead of the old 19th century system of democracy, we have a system of iDemocracy. That means that instead of leaving it to politicians, MPs like me, to decide what's right for you and your family, you're going to have much greater opportunity to decide yourself. Let me put it this way. Imagine if in the street where you lived, every single person voted every 4 or 5 years on what kind of breakfast cereal everyone in that street should have. The idea would be ridiculous. The idea is so daft, you'd probably chuckle at the idea of it. If everyone in the street voted, perhaps you might vote for Cocoa Pops and your neighbour might vote for Weetabix. The chances are that you wouldn't be happy if their side won, and they wouldn't be happy if you won. Of course you don't do that. We allow instead every single individual household to vote using money in the supermarket every week to decide on what they and their individual household wants. The internet's going to allow us to do that with a whole load of things, where in the past we've all voted for a one-size-fits-all approach. So a national curriculum. Instead of voting for a political party that's going to change the national curriculum and make it a little bit more like the one you would like for your child, we're going to be able to have personalised curriculums for your child. It's not actually going to be any business of government to decide what's in there at all. Instead of a national health plan that prevents you from spending more of your money for the treatments that you might actually choose if you were given the chance, you're going to have individualized health accounts that will allow you and your family to have your private medical records on your iPad, funded out of a state-funded personalized health account. Instead of relying on generic one-size-fits-all politician choices, you're going to have the power to make decisions for yourself, and this is going to be transformative for the better. I'm an optimist. I think the world is vastly better today than it was when I was born. People have much more choice. Of course, there's still poverty, there's still inequality, but the world's a much fairer place, a much more equal place, a much more just place. People have many more opportunities than they did a generation or two ago. The reason why I'm an optimist is because I think, other parts of the world beside the West understand now how to run market-based capitalist economies. They understand how to perform that uniquely Western trick of dispersing power. If you like, perhaps it's not the West that's going to crumble, it's Western exceptionalism that's going to crumble. But that's a good thing. It means that the rest of the world is becoming more Western, and the West itself is going to have to rediscover that classical Western approach of small government and dispersed power. I think actually, in 20 or 30 years' time, there are going to be millions, maybe tens of millions more people who enjoy the lifestyle, the values, and the outlook that we take for granted in this country. Now, I'm an optimist. The world is getting vastly better. And one of the reasons I'm so optimistic is because I think that the wrong turn that the West took a few generations ago when it adopted the big government model, the big government model is coming to an end. The West is going to rediscover its classical liberal approach of a small state, and I think this is good news. It's good news for everyone apart from politicians and other parasites. It's great news for the people.